You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
Black and White Sports fans, about a year ago now, probably a little bit over a year, Michael Jordan released The Last Dance, talking about the 1998 Bulls championship season, championship number 6, and it kind of pretty much went over his whole entire career. And for some players on the Bulls, they were not very happy with that documentary. And they actually felt, like shade was actually being thrown at them. What comes to mind is Craig Hodges. And now Scottie Pippen, we also know he was not too happy with the way he was actually portrayed in that documentary. Now, Michael Jordan had full control over that documentary. He had final say. But now, folks, Scottie Pippen has a new book coming out, and it seems like he's going to take shots at the great Michael Jordan, the greatest player to ever lace them up. So we're going to be talking about that in this video, guys. But first, make sure you guys go over to blackandwhitenetwork.com. Sign up and become a member today. We have 3 different membership plans, just starting at $5 per month. With the basic plan, you can also get the bronze and the silver plan, where you actually get to be on a panel on member-only live streams if you're on the silver plan. But if you guys don't want to do any of that, just consider giving a one-time donation by clicking the donation tab or shopping for the merch. Use the discount code LaChinaSucks, S-U-X, all one word, and we're going to give you 15% off your purchase, folks. So here we go, guys. It says here, Scottie Pippen's memoir seems to throw big Michael Jordan shade. Scottie Pippen is telling his side of the Bulls dynasty story. The Hall of Famer will expose stories I've been keeping to myself for years, and his tell-all memoir, Unguarded, out this November, including his rings run with the 90s Bulls alongside Michael Jordan, which resulted in 6 championships. In the description of the book, Pippen appears to take a few jabs at Jordan and his leadership skills, among other things. Now, we know Michael Jordan was brutal with teammates. He punched teammates. He was a hard-nosed leader. And maybe Scottie Pippen didn't actually like that, because we know that he punched Steve Kerr and he punched another player too. I can't think off the top of my head. And Phil Jackson actually kicked him out of practice. And it goes on. It says, simply put, without Pippen, there are no championship banners, let alone 6, hanging from the United Center Raptors. There's no The Last Stand documentary. The description reads in reference to Jordan's ESPN docuseries about the 90s Bulls championship seasons. There's no Michael Jordan as we know him. The 90s Chicago Bulls would not exist as we know them. Pippen has publicly expressed his disdain for how the story was told in The Last Stand's 6-part series, which was co-produced by Jordan's Jump 23 company. And you see Jordan and Pippen right there. Pippen goes on. Well, it actually goes on. It says Pippen details how he cringed at being labeled Jordan's sidekick and discusses how he could have and should have received more respect for the Bulls from the Bulls management and the media. The unguarded description reads. Now, I will say this about Scottie Pippen. He's probably right about this, about Michael Jordan not being Michael Jordan as we know him without Scottie Pippen. Now, I'm not saying that Scottie Pippen was Michael Jordan by any stretch, because no, he was not. But if you guys remember that the Bulls won the championship in 1990 and they beat the Detroit Pistons. But the season before, they actually took the Pistons to game number 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Scottie Pippen couldn't go, and the Bulls lost. Jordan's first 3 seasons, he never won a playoff series without Scottie Pippen. Now, granted, he was actually facing, all-time great teams like the 86 Celtics. It wasn't, weak teams that he was actually losing to. No, he was losing to great teams. Make no mistake about it. Probably still wouldn't have even beaten those teams with Scottie Pippen at that point either. But growing up, watching the Chicago Bulls, to be called Scottie Pippen was an insult. And Scottie Pippen really was a great player. The man could score. He could actually pass, defend. He did it all. He was a much lesser version of LeBron James. LeBron does everything that Scottie does, but he does it better. Maybe not defensively. I mean, they both really good defensive players. Scottie was a great defensive player, really, really long arms, had a great wingspan, and he would actually be out there guarding the best player. But it goes on, it says he discusses what it was like dealing with Jordan on a day-to-day basis while serving as the real leader within the Bulls locker room. And it says Pippen and Jordan were teammates in Chicago from 1987 to 93 and again from 1995 to 1998. Jordan presented Pippen when he was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2010. And the two reunited publicly in 2017 for an event at Jordan's flight camp in California. Now, they were together from 87 to 93. Now, 93, they had actually won their third straight championship. And then Jordan retired, went play baseball. The Bulls were led by Scottie Pippen in that season. And they won 55 games. They actually won 57 during the third championship with the Bulls. They only won 2 less games. And they were really, really probably, I'm just say probably because we can't know for sure, Hugh Holland's call, because that was a horrible call in the Eastern Conference semifinals. They called a foul on 3-point shot. I believe it was on Pippen. This was against the Knicks. And the Knicks advanced. Scottie Pippen was a really, really, really good player. He was the ultimate number 2 player, I believe. Not on a Michael Jordan level. He wasn't even on a Kobe level. But he was really good. I mean, ESPN, they actually had the rankings of, I think it was the top 50 or top 100 NBA players of all time. They had Scottie Pippen at number 20. I think that was a bit generous, but Scottie Pippen, you can see here, he was a really, really good player. It says, though Pippen's feelings toward his old teammates seemed to sour after the release of The Last Dance in April 2020, which painted Pippen as Jordan's blatant number 2, late last year, Pippen revealed he wasn't a fan of how the documentary turned out. I don't think it was inaccurate in terms of really defining what was accomplished in one of the greatest eras of basketball, but also by 2 of the greatest players. And one could even put that aside and say the greatest team of all time. Yeah, that was the greatest dynasty in NBA history, if you ask me. Pippen told The Guardian in December 2020, I didn't think those things stood out in the documentary. I thought it was more about Michael trying to uplift himself and to be glorified. I think it also backfired to some degree in that people got a chance to see what kind of personality Michael had, he explained. Pippen said in an interview, he said he confronted Jordan over his feelings about the documentary. I told him I wasn't too pleased with it. He accepted it. He said, hey, you're right. That was pretty much it, Pippen recalled. Now, we know who Michael Jordan is. Michael Jordan will throw you under the bus. I mean, look what he did at his Hall of Fame ceremony. The guy that was there inducting him, presenting him, I should say, he took shots at him. I mean, Michael is going to do this with everybody. He just is, But this is going to be interesting to see what Scottie's actually going to put out in this book, besides the obvious right here. And like I said before, growing up in the 1990s, to be called Scottie Pippen, you weren't really respected as a superstar. Even though I feel that Scottie really has become underrated, but that's probably just because Michael was just so great. I mean, he is the greatest athlete of all time. Even when ESPN had their Sports Century that they released of the 50 greatest athletes of all time, Michael Jordan was number 1 of all time across all sports. not just the NBA. Scottie Pippen was not on that list. And for the most part in the 90s, Scottie was a top 10 player, but nobody was saying he was better than Hakeem. Nobody was saying that he was better than David Robinson, probably not even Patrick Ewing. He was a great player, but he was not on the Michael Jordan level. Nobody was, but Scottie really wasn't even on that Nets tier, with Hakeem. Hakeem was light years better than Scottie Pippen too. That's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this, black and white sports fans? Are you looking forward to this book where Scottie Pippen is actually going to be throwing some serious shade at Michael Jordan and his leadership skills? This is going to be interesting, folks. Very, very interesting to see what's actually going to be put out in this book. Anyway, guys, let us know what you think about all this in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to Black and White Sports, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.